Okay, next we are moving into logarithmic functions and their graphs. And we're going to look at common logarithms, natural logarithms, convert between exponential and log equations, change bases, and then you'll get into graphing and solving applied functions in your homework. So logarithm functions are inverses. Aha! We just talked about inverses of exponential functions. So it's pretty easy to draw the graph of the inverse, as we know, of an exponential function by interchanging x and y. So if I want to graph x equals 2 to the y, we can choose values for y and then compute the value of x. And so if I wanted to graph x equals 2 to the y, I actually choose values for y, for the exponent, and then I solve for x, and I have all these points that I can plot. So notice that our curve here, so x equals 2 to the y is this red curve. If we reflected across the y equals x, as we said for the inverse, that is actually my exponential function. So you can see that a logarithm is the inverse of an exponential function. So we define y equals log base a x as the number y such that x equals your base a raised to the y. And so we read log base a x as the logarithm base a of x. So just looking at some of these, because they take a little bit to kind of get used to, but if you just remember, a logarithm is an exponent. So this first one here, remember this is the base. So 10 raised to what base would give me 10,000? That's where the 4 comes in. 10 raised to what base would give me 0.01? Negative 2. So that's how you read these, is what would you raise this base to get this value? And so looking at log base 5, 5 raised to the third power would give me 125. Looking at log 9 of 3, 9 raised to what power? So this would be the 1/2, because that would be the square root. And then as you can see here, log 6 of 1, 6 raised to what would give you 1, and so that would be 0. And then finally 5 equals 5 to the first power, so log 5 raised to what? 1 would give me 5. And that's actually a definition here of logarithms. And so remember how you read this. A raised to the 0 power gives me 1. A raised to the y power gives me x by looking at these. All right, so I can convert each of the following to logarithm. I can go from exponential to log. So notice this is the base, 2 of 16 equals the exponent. So you write all these the same. Let's bring them all up here and you'll get lots of practice with those. All right, well, let's convert the other way. So from log to an exponential, 2 raised to the 5th power equals 32. A raised to the 8th power equals q. And I think once you just get down that the base raised to what it equals to, a logarithm is an exponent. That's the exponent. You'll get these down pretty good. Remember E? We talked about E in the last, or yeah, I think it was last. I think it was under inverses, under logarithms. We talked about the actual E value. Remember the 2.718? Base E is ln for natural logarithms. So anytime you see ln, and if you see log and you don't see a number here, then by default that's base 10. So ln is base E. Sometimes we might even want to change our base. So we have a change of base formula, which you just simply, whatever base you're wanting to change to. So notice any logarithmic, it's hard to say, logarithmic bases A and B. I can simply change to a different base. And so if I want to look at finding common logarithms, so if I have log base 5 of 8, and maybe I want this to be a common log, which is my base 10, then I simply do log base 10 of 8 over the base. Now notice, because students always wonder, well, why do you use log of 10 and you don't use the natural log? It doesn't matter. You actually get the same number. And so then you'll finish up with graphing. You can do the same thing where you can select values of y and then plug these into your calculator to get x values. And they're a little bit easier to graph this way if you set them as exponents. And then you will finish up the section with looking at applications of logarithms. But remember, the big key is a logarithm. A logarithm is an exponent, and then you won't have any problems with them.